I've been a little bit surprised about just how strong, the markets have been in general. There's not been a whole lot of development on the Russia-Ukraine situation. It doesn't seem like there's any kind of major change on, like Fed policy or anything like that. So to see kind of the rally we've seen in the major indices, and then Tesla in particular, and like I think Apple's back to positive for the year now. It surprised me a little bit.
The macro market climate is very hard to predict. So there's certainly uncertainty with Russia, Ukraine still, what the outcome will be. But I feel like that same level of uncertainty has sort of been, in the market for the last several weeks now, where the market maybe has adapted to that geopolitical event to some degree.
It's interesting. You saw the lockdowns in Shanghai this week. There was similar stuff going on in Hong Kong not too long ago. And it's obviously impacting Tesla's plant now with a little bit of production impact there.
As long as it's somewhat short-term in nature, I think one silver lining is the chip shortage is still limiting them to some degree. Maybe just because they're kind of supply constrained on the chips anyway, that they can just ramp up production a bit more than they otherwise would have. Tesla is a big firm, over 100,000 employees globally, and it's growing fast. The stock price should be, and essentially is, the future value of all its dividends it will pay out, discounted back to present day value. And so ultimately, that's what Tesla's stock price will reflect one day. Split once if possible, and not have to worry about it again. 20 to 1 or bigger, 25 to 1, heck, make it 50 to 1. But if you're really a loyal Tesla investor, the short term doesn't matter. It's really about the business and where it's going long term.
I think 50 to 1 would probably be the highest I could see them realistically going. Next week, we're going to see, production and deliveries. We'll have earnings a couple weeks after that. So, I think if those are really strong or surprise to the upside, I could see the rally definitely continuing. But, if those disappoint at all, I could see a real sharp correction. We're still really volatile.
Yeah, if we get some stability above $1,000 a share, that'd be nice. But at this rate, we could hit new all-time highs later this week.
It's true, which is so ridiculous. Like thinking of where we were just 2-3 weeks ago.
The other electric vehicle makers that don't make cars, they just make prototypes. Those guys are up 10%. I initially am going to say no. I think Peter Beck has his own vision and wants to move forward. I don't think he's tired. I think this is his dream. I don't think he wants to lose control.
Like right now, their operating cash flow is like marginally higher than their like CapEx requirements. So, they're getting more from cash flow from their current business than they need to plow back into the business, like to build new plants. But it's not by such a huge margin that they could have like a meaningful amount of share repurchases. But in the future, if they're generating a free cash flow of, say, like $20 billion a year, then rather than having that pile up on the balance sheet, I think it would make more sense to do a repurchase. So the very earliest I could see that happening is like next year. Gosh, I still love the discount that we're getting on Rocket Lab and Lemonade. Yeah. But in my mind, it's like they're more risky, especially in the short term. I think in the longer term, like Rocket Lab in particular seems not super risky given their technology advantage over most of the other players except for SpaceX. Will there be a catalyst that, doubles or triples the stock in the next 2 years? Or could it be that they pop in 5 years? I'm not sure there. So I think kind of holding the equity makes more sense for Rocket Lab and some of these other names. So he did, but if you look at what happened, they actually delivered a lot more vehicles than they produced. My expectation for this quarter would be that probably the cost, like the expedite cost, should be lower, which should show up in improved gross margin. But maybe that results in an inventory buildup. He seemed to kind of change his mind about energy consumption actually being an issue after Tesla actually bought them. You could actually argue that him selling the Bitcoin would, result in a big transaction that would have to go through the blockchain, which would result in more energy consumption. So maybe just holding them is the best thing to do from an energy consumption standpoint. I'm concerned about kind of the growth of authoritarianism and how so many people seem to not be concerned about the growing censorship of big tech around free speech issues. You have to risk being offended if you're going to have a public conversation that has any kind of like legitimacy or truth in it.
Yeah, we've gone way too far. It's a really good philosophical conversation. I love this stuff.